I know it's hot, so we're going to get right to it, folks. Does the clerk attest to the return of the warrant?
I do.
She does. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, I thought it was over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Yep. Folks, I just want to remind everybody we are still operating under a state of emergency. So as previously stated, our goal today is balanced discussion and debate on 3 essential articles while limiting the length of the meeting. And I'm not going to go into why we're limiting the length of the meeting. I think you all know full well. So without further ado, to my left is Town Council Lauren Goldberg, Town Administrator Jim Johnson, and Select Board Chairman Jim O'Neill. We also have here today distinguished guest Congressman Stephen Lynch and State Representative John Rogers. They are here and have graciously agreed not to speak. But they have assured me that they will continue, as always, to work with our town officials in supporting our community. I have to throw out, just because, and Congressman Lynch didn't ask me to say this, but I think we can be assured that it's likely that one of our Walpole finest graduates will be considered for a military academy appointment. Thank you, Congressman Lynch, and thank you, Representative Rogers. Town meeting doesn't happen without the efforts of many, many people. And to be short and sweet, instead of listing them all out, thanks to each and every one of you, you know who you are. Before I review the procedural meetings for this meeting, I've asked the Director of Public Health, Melissa Ranieri, to come up and provide some health and safety guidance, as I know it's a hot one out there. Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Welcome and good morning. Prior to beginning today's meeting, I would like to remind everyone here today that the importance of maintaining both a healthy and safe environment throughout today's event. As we all know, it's hot out here today. I want to remind everyone the importance of sun protection and drinking water to stay hydrated over the next few hours. We ask that you be mindful of your surroundings and be neighborly to those around you. Should anyone become overly hot or dehydrated, please be sure to notify a town official. Emergency responders are on site and are located throughout the field should anyone require medical attention. Given the fact that everyone is sitting 15 feet away from one another, we are not requiring individuals to wear a mask throughout the entire meeting. That being said, throughout today's meetings, masks should be worn anytime you cannot maintain 6 feet of separation from others while you are moving around the field. We ask that you adhere to this request and be courteous to those around you. Restrooms are located upon the entering of the field next to the Snack Shack building. Please be mindful of those around you and adhere to the ground markings in the front of the restrooms, which provide the required separation between individuals should a line form. If you decide that you would like to make a comment by utilizing one of the 4 mics located towards the front of the stage, when it is time to do so, we ask that you walk towards the microphone closest to your seat to avoid walking past others as best you can. If at any point during this time you cannot demonstrate the required social distancing amongst others, a mask should be worn. As you will see, there are ground markings leading up to the microphones. We ask that no more than 3 individuals be in line at each microphone at once. Once it is your turn to use the microphone, we ask that you do not touch the microphone. A town representative will be available to position the mic should it be needed, and microphones will properly be sanitized in between speakers. Upon entering the track, everyone should have received what I like to call a swag bag. The bag consists of hand sanitizer, sunscreen, and 2 items from the town's Minds Matters mental health program. For those of you who have no clue what the orange keychain is, it's called a mop topper screen cleaner. The second is a nail file. Walpole Minds Matters program is a partnership with William James College Interface Referral Service to work to increase awareness of mental health issues impacting children, families, and adults, and to facilitate access to appropriate services. With the stresses of COVID-19, there has been a rise in the need of mental health services. The Minds Matters items you have in your bag provide the contact information for this referral resource should you feel that you or someone else you know could benefit from such services. Following today's meeting, I ask that you wait for our town moderator to dismiss the group in an orderly fashion to avoid overcrowding. I want to thank everyone for continuing to do their part to keep the residents of Walpole and our community safe and healthy. I hope everyone has a nice Father's Day weekend.
Thank you, Melissa. So just a couple of procedural rules, and I mean just a couple. When you are recognized to speak, please identify yourself by name and precinct, even if I call you by name, which may be harder because my eyes aren't as good as they used to be and we're much more spread out and distant than we are. Address your remarks to the moderator. If you are asking a question, I will ask the appropriate official for a response. As far as voting, unfortunately, there is no electronic voting out here on the football field. So voice voting will be our primary method of voting. If I'm unable to call a voice vote, we'll go to a standing vote. I need tellers. So I'm going to start in this section right here. Do I have a couple of volunteers for tellers? Mr. Lee. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Thank you, Mr. Lombardi. Over here on my left, to the right. Teller? Thank you. I'm calling it my left. Somebody else over there with Miss McCarthy. Thank you, Nancy. Miss Gallivan. And over here on my right, I can't see, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Lee. And someone else? Yes. Albert? Thank you, Mr. Albert. I think he said Lee, didn't he? I'm sorry, again? Oh, Leith, thanks. Sorry, John. Okay, so we have our tellers. Again, if there's a standing vote, you all know the drill. I'm not going to review it now. I'll review it when we get to it if we need to it. All members that wish to speak on an article will be limited to 3 minutes. I've mentioned this in my public service announcement. We've used it before as practice, and it's been in your meeting protocol packet I hope you've all reviewed. The one nuance here, no repeat speakers. It's hot out here, folks, so make your points and, turn the microphone over to your neighbor, and let's move on and keep this as quick as possible and go home, and let's get our budget stuff done. It's an honor to serve as moderator. That's all I'm going to say. Questions or comments? I would like to just briefly rise for a moment of silence for those who have passed since our last fall meeting. We'll cover the specific resolutions in the fall. Thank you. You may be seated. At this point in time, I have a preliminary motion and a second from the Finance Committee to waive the reading of the warrant. Questions or comments? There being none, the Finance Committee motions requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is a vote. I have another properly second motion that all motions of the Finance Committee be the main motion. Questions or comments? There being none, this also requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is a vote. We will now proceed to Article 1, a general article that remains open throughout town meeting. In Article 1, it is moved town will hear and act on any report of any committee or to choose any committee the town think proper and transact any other business that may legally come before the town. As we do not have any reports at this time, we'll move on to the consent agenda. As you all know, our rules allow for the moderator to make use of a consent agenda. I've expanded it this year due to the unprecedented situation this country is acting under. So I've included all articles except for the 3 budget articles in the consent agenda, and that was sent out to you, the packet, and again mentioned in the public service announcement. So I'm going to read through the numbers quickly. And if anybody would like to place a hold on an article, please raise your hand and say hold. Personnel, Article 2, personal bylaw amendments. Article 3, personal new salary schedule for non-union employees. Article 4, personnel funding. Article 5, the fiscal year supplemental budget. Article 7, the fiscal year water supplemental return earnings transfer. Article 10, snow and ice. Article 11, unpaid bills. Article 12, the police contract. Article 13, the fire contract. Article 14, the DPW contract. Article 15, the clerical contract. Article 16, the dispatcher's contract. Article 17, the library contract. Article 18, the Department of Environmental Protection Asset Management Planning Grant Borrowing. Article 19, the Walpole Media Fiscal Year 2021 Budget. Article 20, the Stretch Energy Code Bylaw. Article 21, the Inclusionary Zoning Bylaw. Article And who's that? Stand up, please, and just, what's your name again? Thank you, Liz.
On Article 21?
So you're holding Article 21 for a separate vote. Okay, you have a question on that article. Okay. Do you want to come down and you can ask your question? While you're coming down, I'm going to continue. Article 22, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Article 23, the Stadium Event Parking Overlay District. Article 24, the capital budget's $5 million or greater townwide referendum. Please rise, sir, and state your name.
Hold on 22.
Oh, thank you.
Who's the hold on 22?
It's Liz.
Oh,
Go ahead, Liz, state your question.
Right here.
We can hear you fine. Go
Okay.
right ahead. Yep.
So on those 2 articles, 21 and 22, so this is, we're making the presumption that we're going to be having a fall town meeting. What happens when that does not happen? My concern is that these 2 articles will get pushed off even further, and I think that we shouldn't be closing, having any final postponement of this, because I think that they're important articles to be discussed. And I appreciate no one wants to talk about it today, but my concern is pushing it off to indefinite.
Ms. Barrows, I appreciate your comments, and I understand. One of the things that I wanted to point out that I haven't stated previously is the legislature, very late when they allowed the quorum reduction, they also allowed town meetings to hold a virtual town meeting. In the lead up to that, I was not comfortable with getting that scheduled and kind of going forward and proceeding with that. Since that, a couple of towns have successfully had a remote town meeting, so in worst case scenarios, that's what I would look to set up and do that, or we'll be back here in the fall out on hopefully a glorious fall day having a town meeting, and it won't be quite as hot. So I would expect to have a fall meeting, and if need be, we'll do it in the virtual fashion.
Okay.
Is that sufficient to keep?
Can you continue
The articles will have to be put on the fall warrant, if that's what your question is.
Okay. And we have to finalize Springtown meeting. You can't have a continuance to discuss.
No, all matters must, once we dissolve this meeting, this warrant goes away, and any article that would need to be on the fall meeting will need to be added through the Board of Selectmen. Mr. O'Neill, would you like to make a couple of comments about the fall warrant, if you could?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just to assure people that we're planning to put the same articles on the fall town meeting warrant that are on the warrant, those that are on the consent agenda, that'll be carried over to the fall town meeting warrant. So if there's any concern over that, just know that's our intent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Barrows, any further questions?
Okay, so it's not possible to do a continuance of Springtown meeting?
There is not.
Okay, thank you.
Are you okay with leaving these articles in the consent agenda?
Yep.
Thank you. Just to be specific, you release your hold?
Yeah.
Thank you. Article 24, the capital projects 5 million or greater requiring a town-wide referendum. Article 25, capital projects surplus funds. Hearing no objection, this motion requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. It is a vote. Folks, just to be clear, these articles are being referred back to the petitioner, so they are not, no article has been killed, okay, in other words. So it is a vote. We will now move to Article 6, the fiscal year 2021 budget. This motion pursuant to Article 6 states as follows. It is regularly moved and seconded that the town fix the salary and compensation for elected officials of the town as provided for by General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 108, for their services for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2020, and that the town vote to appropriate the following sums for the operation of municipal and school departments and incidental expenses of the town for fiscal year 2021, July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021, and that the sum of $95,295,902 be raised from the following funding sources. Raise and appropriate from taxation, $92,448,085. Ambulance fund, $761,000. Sale of cemetery lots, $13,000. Water enterprise fund, $1,283,691. Sewer enterprise fund, $440,126. And the overlay, $350,000. This is a petition of the Board of Selectmen. The Finance Committee voted favorable action 13-1-1. The Select Board voted favorable action 4-0-0. Are there any questions or comments with regards to Article 6?
Patrick Fasanello, Precinct 3. Mr. Moderator, what elected officials are compensated?
Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Moderator, there are no elected officials compensated. That's standard language that's included as part of the budget.
Mr. Moderator, are there any elected officials that are compensated?
No, there is not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fasanello. Mr. Brown?
Tom Brown, Precinct 6. Through you, Mr. Moderator, to town meeting members. Today, we as town meeting members are here during historical moments. Historical town budget and a historical pandemic affecting the world, country, and our community. We are facing financial uncertainty. Many of our citizens have been laid off, furloughed, and businesses have closed forever. I believe we must adopt the emergency 1/12 budget recommended by our governor or deny this article in its entirety. Today, we must show compassion for our citizens and business owners. I will proudly vote no on this article, and I urge all to follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Dick Zaccaro, Precinct 3. I also agree with Mr. Brown. I urge my fellow RTMs to vote no on this full budget, and I have a question for Mr. Johnson through the moderator. What do you have for unrestricted cash balances and other reserve funds, and how much of that was used to fund the fiscal year 2021 budget? How much in elderly services, public safety, and OPEB funding was cut from the budget, and why didn't you borrow money for these services like you found necessary to borrow $7 million during these difficult financial times, where $3.5 million went to the funding of the ball fields on Route 1A? Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Zaccaro. Mr. Johnson, and folks, please do not direct your question. I will direct the question. So, Mr. Johnson, in this case, I will move to you, please.
Sure. There were no one-time funds used in the balancing of this budget, as stated in my budget message that was in all of your packets. You cannot use borrowing funds to assist in the balancing of the budget, and I think I hit the two questions there. So. OPEB funding was reduced. The recommendation there was originally, I believe it was $500,000 there. It was eliminated to assist in the balancing process. Elderly services, I believe a part-time position request was eliminated. And what was the last one?
Public safety.
Public safety. We had eliminated on the public safety end, part of the budget proposal was to add some new firefighter positions in there, which remained. And one additional, actually two new police officers and another promotion. So we actually added the two new police officers in there, but they were funded through starting on January 1st, so that was reduced.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Moderator, Richard Peeler, Precinct 7. Massachusetts jobless rate hit 15.1% in April. In that same month, there was a huge spike in mortgage delinquency. We have no idea what the state aid will be. We have no idea whether we will be receiving prison reimbursement. We have no idea what the state will be mandating for the operation of our schools. With all of these uncertainties, it would be totally irresponsible to approve this budget as presented and to propose a budget that is higher than fiscal year 20 when the economy was booming with another tax to max 2.5%, which would be a breach of our fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers of the town of Walpole. I would like to, Mr. Moderator, through you, remind my fellow town meeting members that 30% of the Walpole residents live on a fixed income. Therefore, I propose that town meeting approve a short-term, 4 months budget that will take us to fall town meeting, when by then we hopefully will know exactly what our revenues will be and what our expenses will be. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Peeler. Go ahead, Mr. O'Leary.
John O'Leary, Precinct 3. To you, Mr. Moderator, will you be going through the line items, asking for holds as usual?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Not the full line items. I'll be going through the department budgets. Budget level. There'll be sufficient detail, I believe. Sir?
Robert Damish, Precinct 7. And to the body, I don't know how many people here actually watched the Finance Committee meetings. I tried to watch as many as I could. I had a couple follow-up questions at the open hearing. I'm going to be honest, though, I was very disappointed that I think only 2 of us actually attended the open hearing on Monday night and asked questions. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not comfortable with this whole budget. These are unknown times. I don't want to just parrot the 2 gentlemen who just spoke, but I didn't hear anything that made me comfortable with this. I did a lot of research online, and I know every town just seems to be raising up 2%, 3%, and a lot of administrators are patting themselves on the back because they kept it to like under 2%, I read. But I also read Natick is going to they're doing like a budget, they're going to wait until the fall. They're doing a short-term budget for like 3 or 4 months, and they're going to wait until the fall. There was a comment to Natick by Democratic Senate Speaker, I'm sorry, not, Karen Spilka, sorry, I forgot the name, who said that the state aid could be cut similar to what happened in 2010, which is it was cut 28% back then. I don't expect that. I know Mr. Johnson doesn't expect that. But that's another $2.2 million we'd have to come up with. So another comment I have is, and what I heard is, there's a lot of unknowns with the schools. For example, the PPE. No one knows what the PPE is actually going to require. That could be a large amount. I'm hearing maybe $1 million to cover all the schools for that. And Mr. Johnson did give some good answers when I asked how he intended to cover these unknowns. But again, it's to raise taxes on people, to come out with a budget higher than last year. It's just, I'm not comfortable with it. It's like, I work for a company that tries to give out a bonus every year. I don't spend that bonus until I know I actually have it. And I feel that's what we're doing right now. So, no questions, just comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Damish. At this time, seeing no further speakers lined up, I will quickly run through the department budgets. If any member wishes to place a hold, please, again, stand, raise your arm, shout out, as it is difficult to hear some of you on the way back. Sure. Folks, just in case anybody's looking for it, I just saw they're bringing in coolers of water, so if somebody needs an extra bottle of water, please help yourself. General government, I am not going to read the zero balance budgets. I'm going to go straight to the ones with items in it. But general government, and this is in your booklet, you can follow along. Select board, $61,447. Administration, $473,305. Finance committee, $11,980. Reserve fund, $460,000. Town accountant, $221,686. Municipal office expenses, $69,400. Board of Assessors, $327,560. Treasurer collector, $558,138. Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. Hold on, treasurer collector for Mr. O'Leary. Legal services, $220,000. Personnel board, $2,800. Information systems, $317,418. Town clerk, $181,616. Elections and registrars, $129,343. Conservation Commission, $86,401. Planning Board, $61,831. Zoning Boards of Appeals, $4,500. Community and Economic Development, $144,675. Building Maintenance, $2,414,749. Mr. O'Leary, thank you. Town Report and Audit, $64,800. Trust Fund Commission, $450. Moving on to Public Safety. Police Department, $5,961,807. Fire Department, $4,594,199. Inspectional Services, $480,490. Weights and Measures, $5,000. Emergency Management, $33,874. Animal Control, $67,633. Public Education, Walpole Public Schools, $46,858,876. Tri-County Vocational, $1,071,000. Norfolk County Agricultural, $60,000. The Public Works Department, Engineering, $340,700. DPW Administration, $323,863. Highway Division, $798,208. Snow and Ice, $818,300. Mr. O'Leary on Snow and Ice. Street lighting, $432,700. Solid Waste and Recycling, $2,103,292. Who's that? Thank you, Mr. Damish. Cemetery, $160,441. Vehicle Maintenance, $462,656. Health and Human Services, Board of Health, $318,193. Council on Aging, $326,708. Mr. O'Leary. Council on Aging, yep. Veteran Services, $161,394. Culture and Recreation, Public Library, $844,758. Recreation, $239,084. Parks Division, $774,258. Mr. O'Leary on the Parks Division. Town Celebrations, $1,500. Trail Committee, $650. Debt and Interest, Retirement of Debt, $4,185,286. Assessments and Fringe Benefits, Employee Retirement Assessment, $5,447,572. Unemployment Compensation, $350,000. Employee Fringe Benefits, $11,321,094. And Casualty Insurance, $976,265. All right, so let's go to the holds now. Mr. O'Leary, would you please come down to the microphone? And Mr. Damish, will you come down here? I think those are our holds. Mr. O'Leary, will start with the treasurer-collector hold.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My question to you, Mr. Moderator, is the comments made by the town administrator reference a reduced financial services line based on trend, yet the treasurer collector's lines are up in both personnel and expenses. Could someone speak to that, please?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes. You'll actually note that the personnel line has actually gone up. That's to account for a retirement, the accrued time paid out there. So I don't have to go back and operate a deficit in that budget.
So that's due to retirement costs for someone retiring out of the
Yes.
department? Okay. I release the hold.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. Building and Maintenance, Mr. O'Leary?
The wind is not cooperating. Get back here. Okay. Through you, Mr. Moderator, I'm curious, how many people does this personal service line represent?
Mr. Johnson?
I believe, I'm trying to count the number of janitors, approximately 14. Dawn, could you help me out, Dawn?
Mr. Anderson? Do you know the number here of how many people this represents?
11.
11.
Okay, then, well, is this then strictly the people who are keeping up our schools then? That's
No.
the custodial type work? or-
Mr. Moderator, through you. No, actually, the custodians are part of the school operating budget. The custodians included in Don Anderson, the building maintenance budget, is the custodians that take care of the Council on Aging, Police Station, DPW, Town Hall, Blackburn Hall, and all the municipal buildings there. They also are the people who work in the buildings, like the people who are the painters, who are the, come out and help set us up today, the people who get out and do the work if there's a tile that needs to be replaced in one of the ceiling tiles. So they're our staff also.
So there's additional people beyond the 11 that you're saying?
No, it's in that division. Oh, there's additional people in the school department budget that are just the custodians, yes.
Well, I was talking just within this particular DPW building maintenance. It's just those 11.
So there are 11 members in the DPW, and then there are additional school custodians not included here.
Within the school budget?
Yes.
Okay, I release my hold.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. And Mr. O'Leary, do not go away because you are next up with the snow and ice budget.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you, I'm curious as to how much of the 2020 expense budget has not been spent.
Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Moderator, through you, there is $398,089 remaining in that account.
And isn't there some way we can take that and apply it to this coming year's budget? Or does it have to default to free cash?
Mr. Trudell?
Yes, that has to fall to free cash first, and then at fall town meeting, it can be reappropriated, but it has to close out the free cash first.
With that knowledge known, wouldn't it be wiser, rather than put 600 more into an account, as at best a guess?
Mr. Johnson?
Mass General Law does not allow snow and ice budget to be underfunded year to year. You have to have at least $1 more each year in that budget. In order to deficit spend the following year. This is the one account that we're allowed to deficit spend prior to COVID. So we need to set that minimum in there.
So that's regulated by the state, you say?
It is.
Okay, I release my hold then.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. And Mr. O'Leary, I'll give you a break while you find your next page. Mr. Damish, solid waste and recycling. And Mr. O'Leary, find your notes for Council on Aging if you can in the wind.
I just brought the one page up, Dan, so don't blow away.
I got it. Okay, thank you.
But anyways, through you, Mr. Moderator, my question has to do, I know recycling costs, I think are far outweigh, I wouldn't say far, but are outweighing actual trash costs. Is that true for this town? And if so, do we know percentage-wise how much more the recycling is? And I know you probably won't have the exact numbers, but approximate.
Mr. Johnson?
I have some exact numbers for you.
Excellent.
So we have 2 years remaining in our solid waste contract, FY21 and FY22. The recycling cost as of June was $94.65. To give you some history, in April it was $108, in May it was $110. We're paying approximately just under $70 a ton, I believe, for trash. Melissa, is that correct? She's giving me the thumbs up. $68. So.
Just through you, Mr. Moderator, so 2 years on both contracts, the trash and the recycling?
Mr. Moderator, through you, it's the same contract. It was a 5-year contract, and they covered both trash and recycling.
Okay, very good. Just keep an eye on that. I saw a 60 Minutes report, and towns are hurting because they're paying so much more in recycling now, and it looks like a lot of recycling just gets burnt up in incinerators or shipped off to who knows where and gets dumped in landfill. So people just aren't using the recycling products, I should say.
It was an excellent documentary.
Yeah,
I saw that too.
All right, thank you. I release my hold.
Thank you, Mr. Damish. Mr. O'Leary, back to you. Council on Aging.
Noticing on the personal service line that from 2019, there's a large jump into 2020, and it's increased again. Is that based on additional people on that budget then?
Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Mr. Moderator, through you. Yes, there was a spike in the personnel costs. That's actually the year that we transitioned to the new senior center. We brought there is demand down there, as if you've been down there prior to COVID. It was always full and active, and since COVID, they've really transitioned over to providing food services to the families of Walpole. So it's related to the increase in personnel down there. We actually transitioned some of the van drivers over from part-time to full-time because there was such a demand from our seniors to do that.
Thank you. I release my hold.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. And I think you have one more on Parks Division, Mr. O'Leary.
Yes, thank you. In the town administrator's comments under DPW, it mentions parks and cemeteries elimination of summer help. Yet the personnel line on the Parks Division has gone up over 20%. Could someone explain that, please?
Mr. Johnson?
Sure. Actually, the overall DPW department budget has actually decreased from FY20 to FY21 by $8,800. The increase in this specific line is about $93,000, give or take. You'll notice that there's almost exactly the same amount reduced in the highway department budget. That's because when we had someone leave and go to another spot, we separated out and created, instead of assistant superintendent, highway superintendent, we have two separate superintendents. One's for highway, one's for cemetery and parks, so it balanced out.
Well, I see. Where is it?
Mr. Moderator, through you, it's page 7. I would note that the highway department budget went from $902,000 budgeted in FY20 to $798,000.
Thank you. I release my hold.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary.
Thank you. Thanks, Lauren.
Any further questions or comments on Article 6? Yes, he did. Okay. You don't have to run, you can walk. Trying to relive the glory days of old on the field, huh?
All right, my name is Chris Fletcher. I'm a RTM from Precinct 2. I just wanted to direct these comments to the entire body and everyone here. Maybe alleviate some of the confusion about kind of the state of affairs with the finance, the town finances. To my fiscal conservative friends, taxes are always going to increase because we live in a capitalistic society with a central bank based on debt with fiat currency, so your taxes are always going to increase. To my fiscally liberal friends, that's why the real wages of people have gone down since the mid-'70s. So I just want to say that I'm saying this to all of us, that we're trying to do the best we can to get through whether COVID-19 and just in general. So I anticipate the whatever 2% is going to increase every year. That's just the nature of the world we live in. So unfortunately, we're going to have this debate at every single meeting. I just wanted to throw that out there. And Yeah, that's it. Just a quick comment. So, thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Any further questions or comments with respect to Article 6? Mr. Peeler, you have already spoken. I'm sorry, I'm holding the line. I would not normally do that. These are unprecedented times. Any other questions or comments from someone who has not yet spoken? There being none, this requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say no. We're going to a standing count, folks. I'm not even going to wait. Tellers, please rise. Tellers, I just kind of, where are my tellers? Right here. I know, I see you, no, I see you two over here I'm looking for. Where's my other teller over here? There you are, thank you. Well, I'm actually, yes, I will. First and foremost, tellers, please. Tellers in favor, please raise your arm, please. 1, 2. I've got 3. 3 tellers in favor. Tellers opposed, please raise your arms. I have 3 opposed. Thank you, tellers. Now, what's going to happen, the left side here, you'll see the wide gap between the 30 and 40. You've got that side, so you picked a good section. So here, the center section is between the 2 40-yard lines, okay, and the right section 30 yards down, okay? So I'm going to ask you to stand and remain standing by your seat. All those in favor, please say, please stand. Thank you. Nancy and Shannon, may I ask you to count the front, please? You've got your Finance Committee and Board of Selectmen, Select Board. Yeah, that's Shannon. Go to microphone, John. John, well, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Tellers, when you're done, would one of you please come to the closest microphone after you've agreed your result? Yeah. John, not yet. Wait till we get all the counts in, and then I'll call on you. You're going to do the no count first. Increase the drama a little bit. Nope, we're still, they're still working over here. Okay, please be seated. All those opposed, please rise and remain standing. Tell us when you're done. Please come to the microphone, but wait until I cue you. Mr. Leith, all set over there? Well, actually, Mr. Leith, why don't you go ahead? Give me the yeses first.
There are 38 yeses.
And the noes?
And 12 noes.
Thank you, Mr. Leith. Mr. Lee, for the center.
In the center, 26 yes, 19 no.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. And Ms. Gallivan for the left and down front.
We have 6 yeses and 4 noes.
Thank you, Ms. Gallivan. I think you all know the results, but the town clerk and I have to separately calculate and compare. Ready when you are. You know, I just realized I didn't ask. Any abstentions? Thank you. Okay. Folks, the final confirmed tally is 73 yes, 38 no, so the motion carries. It is a simple majority. So we will move on to Article 8. This motion is pursuant to Article 8 as follows: the fiscal year 2021 water budget. It is regularly moved and seconded that the following sums be appropriated to the Water Enterprise Fund and expended under the direction of the Department of Public Works for the purpose of operating the water department in fiscal year 21. Personnel services, $76,754. Expenses, $1,628,060. Debt service, $1,971,852, and that the sum of $4,676,666 be raised as follows: user fees, $3,534,442, retained earnings, $400,000, miscellaneous receipts, and the MW Pat, $742,224. This is a petition of the Sewer and Water Commissioners. The Finance Committee voted favorable action 12-0-0. The Select Board voted favorable action 4-0-0. Mr. Abbott, the Sewer and Water didn't get that vote. 5-0-0. Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Are there any questions or comments with regard to Article 8? Come on down to the microphone, sir.
How you doing, Mr. Moderator? I feel like this is not...
Your name and precinct, please. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Joseph Kelly, Precinct 7.
Proceed.
I don't think this is the time to be going up on the water and sewer rates because all the small businesses, especially the small businesses opposed to the larger ones, water can be a large portion or a significant portion of their expenses. And I don't think this is the time to do it to them. And the other thing is, one of the big topics is affordable housing. And I happen to own a substantial amount of units, which many of them are way under market rent, because I know people can't afford it. And we talk about affordable housing, and water is a big expense that I have. And I think there's other ways that it can be cut or should be looked into. And I think a vote for increasing the water and sewer is a vote against affordable housing. And it's not helping small businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Any further questions or comments with regards to Article 8? Mr. O'Leary. Mr. Abbott. Mr. Abbott, you want to come over here, and I'll let Mr. O'Leary walk there to. Mr. O'Leary.
John O'Leary, Precinct 3. Just a procedural type question. Every meeting, we get one of these forms with the water and sewer items. They never add up to what the actual budget is. Can whoever is preparing these actually make the numbers on these sheets tie to the budget they're asking for? It's never complete. You always have a couple of items, but it never adds up to what the budget is requested.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. We'll pass that along.
Thank you.
Mr. Abbott.
Bill Abbott, Precinct 6, Chairman of the Sewer and Water Commission, also at the 40-yard line. We are well aware of the situation that many people are in with having lost their jobs or their businesses not being able to operate. And what we did is a very unusual thing is we put $400,000 from the water retained earnings, which we normally use for capital projects, into the calculation, which ended up reducing the rates. In addition, the board decided not to do any capital work in this coming fiscal year, and that last year was like about $355,000, if I remember correctly. So we've done quite a bit to reduce the rates. Now, the reason that they had to go up is that we, for the last 4 fiscal years, have been overestimating the amount of water that we would sell at 88 million cubic feet. Looking at the trends, we'd seen that it really is around 73 million cubic feet, and that's the reason that the rates ended up going out. In the past, we were able to balance the budget with entrance fees being more than we expected. That's not the case this time. So in summary, we did understand that people are hurting, and like I said, we stopped doing capital work, which we will have to pick up eventually, and put in $400,000 on the from the water retained earnings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Any further question or comments with regards to Article 8? Mr. Damish. Yeah, it's funny. I was just thinking that. If anybody would like to, refresh your water, please do so. I know it's hot out there. Just this article and one more to go. Mr. Damish and then Mr. Trudell.
Damish, Precinct 7, through you, Mr. Moderator. Maybe I misheard or misunderstood what Mr. Abbott just said, but we overstated the amount of water used, and so now the rates have to go up. Is that because we spent based on that overstatement?
Mr. Abbott?
Bill Abbott, Precinct 6, Chairman of the Sewer and Water Commission. We did not overspend. You can't overspend. When the town meeting votes a budget, that's the limit that you can spend. So we did not overspend. The problem is that as part of the rate calculation, you look at what amount has to be raised from rates, and you divide, and that's a large number, and then you divide it by the amount of water that you anticipate selling. And as I mentioned previously, we were overestimating by a considerable amount, and we are correcting that at this point.
Okay. So, through you, Mr. Moderator, actually more of a comment. So what I saw in the Finance Committee meetings, the rates are actually going up because people are using less water. So there's less water being billed, so we have to offset that. That's why, big reason why the rate's going up. But I guess I also want to just say, good for the town that everyone's conserving water. So I don't agree with the rates going up, but I like the fact that it looks like the water usage is being at a good level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Damish. Mr. Trudell.
The other thing, too, is that sewer and water, both are basically fixed cost operation regardless of what they produce. It costs the same amount to run a treatment plant regardless of how many gallons or cubic yards run through that plant. It still takes the same amount of manpower and maintenance to maintain a well regardless of if the wells are pumping, hundreds of thousands a day or millions a day. So it's a fixed cost type of budget, so it comes down to what actually gets used and how the rates get calculated. But the good news is that Sewer and Water Commission voted to reduce the rates on the sewer customers, so some of those who are getting hit with affordable housing, your sewer rates will be going down.
Thank you, Mr. Trudell. Mr. Leith?
John Leith, RTM Precinct 1. It is very good that people are conserving water. One reason people conserve water is because of environmental reasons. I think another reason is to save money. It strikes me as being an odd calculation that if you use more water, your rates go up, and if you use less water, your rates go up. From a taxpayer perspective, that's a no-win situation. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem logical. That's all that I have.
Thank you, Mr. Leith. Any further questions or comments with regards to Article 8? There being none, this motion requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is a majority vote. The ayes carry. Article 9. This is a motion of the Sewer and Water Commissioners. It is for the fiscal year 2021 sewer budget. It is regularly moved and seconded that the following sums be appropriated to the Sewer Enterprise Fund and expended under the direction of the Department of Public Works for the purpose of the operating the sewer department in fiscal year 2021. Personnel services, $333,122. Expenses, $4,350,601. Debt service, $23,450. And that the sum of $4,707,173 be raised as follows. User fees, $4,337,173, and miscellaneous receipts, $370,000. The Finance Committee voted favorable on 900. The Select Board voted favorable 400. Mr. Abbott, Sewer and Water? 500 favorable. Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Any questions or comments with regard to Article 9? Mr. Abbott.
Bill Abbott, Precinct 6, Chairman of the Sewer and Water Commission. In keeping in line with what we did with the water budget, we also, for the sewer, eliminated capital work, and that is the main reason we were able to reduce the rates.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Any further questions or comments? There being none, this motion requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. It is the ayes carry, majority vote. And that's it, folks. I'll entertain a motion to dissolve. Mr. Trudell, do I have a second? Second, right here, Mr. Lombardi. Folks, All those in before I say all those in favor, please say aye. Just please remember, stay in your seats. I'll get you out of here as quickly as possible. We're going to start over here, give them a couple-minute head start, and then we're going to move across the field to try to reduce the jam on the way out. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The meeting is dissolved. Thank you, folks. Folks over here on the right may depart. Please maintain social distancing as you go. Put your masks back on. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you coming here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, in the fall. You get an extra 2 minutes, all right?
So that was unanimous.
That was unanimous, yep. Pure.